Henry McCollum and Leon Brown are half-brothers, and they've been in jail for 31 years. And the reason why they're in jail is because they allegedly did the brutal crime of raping a woman named Sabrina Bowie, and then they killed her by shoving her panties down her throat. So a brutal, grotesque, vicious crime, we all agree. And this week, so the publication This Week points out, quote, McCollum and Brown, both of whom have IQs in the 50s and 60s, were convicted mainly on the basis of signed confessions. So the case is so high profile that Antonin Scalia, the Supreme Court Justice, actually referenced this case in an argument he made, I believe in the 90s, as to why he thinks the death penalty actually is constitutional. He basically says, well, look, some of these crimes are so vicious that the only just thing to do is to kill these people. So here is where the curveball to the story comes in. The signed confessions were coerced, and then, quote, they were cleared thanks to DNA testing of evidence. The North Carolina Innocence Inquiry Commission did find DNA evidence on a cigarette butt near the crime scene, but it belonged to a guy named Roscoe Artis, a convicted sexual predator who lived a block from where Bowie's body was found. So these guys spent 31 years in jail, and they didn't do it. Oh, is that rough, man? That's crazy. Now, thankfully, because of the DNA evidence, they're being released, and in a twist of irony and vindication, really, Antonin Scalia's example in favor of the death penalty is actually an example against the death penalty. Okay? Now, to be fair to him, and a lot of liberal blogs, I think, frame this in the wrong way because they made it seem like the titles were Antonin Scalia favors the death penalty for an innocent guy, stuff like that, or to that effect. And that's not fair because he didn't know at the time that the guy was innocent. But to me, that's the bigger point. The point is, we never really know for sure if we're getting the right people. Or that's not fair, actually. Maybe in some cases, the evidence is so overwhelming that we know we're getting the right people, but those cases are so rare and so few and far between, and they're not the norm, and unfortunately with the death penalty, we don't always get it right, because we're humans and we're fallible, and we make mistakes, man. We make mistakes. And there was one recent study that even found that 4% of the people on death row are innocent. 4%. 4 out of every 100 people on death row are innocent. On that alone, you can't have the death penalty. You just can't do it, because whether or not you admit it or realize it, by saying you're in favor of the death penalty, what you're actually saying is, I'm okay with murdering innocent people 4% of the time. Because that's empirically what actually happens if you have a system that has the death penalty. Now, a lot of people fire back and they say, but wait. The fact that these people were exonerated shows that the system works. But that's not true, because there's been plenty of examples of cases that we've covered on this show where it's pretty clear that a person who they did kill should have been exonerated way later. Where we look back and go, oops, that guy was probably innocent, or at least he definitely wouldn't have been convicted and sent to die based on whatever new evidence comes out. Usually it's DNA evidence. So, look, man, and I get it, believe me, as I've pointed out many times on the show before, from a philosophical perspective and a theoretical perspective, I'm actually 100% in favor of the death penalty. And what I mean by that is, if we had access to perfect information, and you can show me that person X, Y, or Z brutally raped and murdered somebody, or we've talked about actual cases where a guy would stab and kill little girls and he would ejaculate as he did it. That's the only thing that would get him off, okay? Or people like Anders Breivik in, where was it, Norway, who killed like 70 kids, right? There are crimes that are brutal enough where I say the evidence shows these people, they're too dangerous to ever be back in society, and there's no hope of rehabilitation. So yeah, kill them. You're eliminating a problem, and they deserve to die for their crime. Okay, so theoretically, I'm for it. But again, theoretically and philosophically doesn't transfer over into the real world, because I'm not in favor of killing even one innocent person. And that's what would happen if we set up a system with the death penalty. So that's what I want, people who are still for it to realize. I want them to open their eyes and see that the conversation is not about what we do to any individual who really is guilty, because we all have that natural reaction where we want to do revenge, and it's even rational to do revenge. But it's about the fact that if you set up a system, we're only humans and we're fallible and we're going to fuck up and some people are going to die, and blood is on our hands when we do that, because it's our tax dollars paying for it, and none of us should be okay with that.